The following program is rated TV MALV. It contains strong language, violence, and nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences.
One, two, one, two. We got J Dilla in the house.
Yes.
At last.
Yes.
It's an honor.
Yes, man. Yo, I'm so excited right now. Everybody who I get material from, you know what I'm saying, that's spoken on this machine right here. It's like words can't explain it, right now. This is wild. This is wild.
When I hear your sort of broken up beats, when I hear your atmosphere, your version of funk, I hear almost a new musical style being born in it.
First, thanks, because I guess that's what I try to get across. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to make sure that if one person can understand like what I'm trying to do with this music thing, and like I call it the weirdness. When it comes out, I never know what I'm gonna do. I just try to, once I get something going, just make the best of it.
No. Ladies and gentlemen, for
J Dilla, the fucking beat king of all time.
I really love this a lot.
I was just hearing about him and hearing about the things he was doing and wanted to get with him.
Nobody snapped on beats like Dilla. Nobody.
I knew it was a sound I never heard before. I knew it was different. There's nothing better than that to me.
There's two phases of Dilla. The Dilla that the producers and the music community knew.
There was a time where I wouldn't listen to anything unless it was produced by Dilla.
We knew about his genius way before the public got a hold of it.
All of the songs that you were dancing to, that you were singing to, that you never knew he was in the background.
It wasn't the producer that's trying to be in the video. He could literally be in the room and you wouldn't know. So it kind of made him more of a underground dope secret.
He barely got any interviews, barely got video footage, so it's like, it makes the mystique even greater.
I used to always say, man, motherfuckers is not gonna catch on to this shit till we long gone.
I had no clue that he was as sick as he was. Didn't know about the blood disorder, that death was so close to him.
He is specifically saying, I just want to finish my work.
It's a shame that he didn't have the recognition during his life.
I think that people really missed out on what his imprint was.
I can't talk about him without talking about his music because it was very much his life.
My purpose is to make sure that James' life and his life's work is not in vain.
Realistically, when it comes to my brother's legacy, it don't belong to anyone but James Dilla ENC.
I'm just an average kid in Detroit. Nobody knows really.
How much has it meant for your music making, the sort of lost hope? Motown moving to Los Angeles, right. The car factories being abandoned. How much has that meant for your music?
Welcome to the D, baby.
That is,
It's all live down here.
Detroit is the best big city in the country.
What you see is all real.
It's a city with the widest range of people that you can imagine.
The factories are producing at an all-time high.
Disappointment is one of the driving forces that keeps me going.
We are announcing the closing of 11 plants.
Murder capital of the United States.
Mile after mile of
jobs being lost. So much, day-to-day life, real life. People, the homeless situation in Detroit and the crime rate, is crazy.
Like a whole generation is being wiped out.
In U.S. history.
The neighborhoods collapsed because half the goddamn population left.
It's like to go in the basement and do something that you love to do and create something that's positive, and that's my only outlet to take me away from all of the crazy stuff.
What y'all doing?
Documentary. Yeah.
Y'all from here?
I am.
Oh, they ain't. Oh, they
Which camera? You look at me. Look at you? Yeah. Okay. Frank Nick, we in Detroit City, just outside of the Coney Gardens neighborhood, close to the 8 Mile. I can't come to Detroit and not be at my mama's house. I tell her I'm getting a hotel, we might have to fight. Coney Gardens, it was basically a black middle class area. Black churches, schools, businesses. It was the Cleavers, or at least our version of it. Big, beautiful homes, upper middle class living. That's mostly black folk. Real quick, Dilla's house is right here on the corner right here. There's a lot of things that people believe is fact, and it adds to his mystique. It keeps him, you know, as an interesting figure. I think in any good story, there's that speculation, because people want to know.
Let's trace your roots. How did you grow up?
Music all in the house. Detroit. As a youngster.
I met Dilla in 1986. Walking to school, the first friend I made was Dilla's adopted brother. And he was like, hey, man, you need to meet my brother, James. And that's how me and Dilla met. That was it. Became homeboys. Just kind of bonded on hip hop. The Houdinis, the Fat Boys, you know, Salt and Pepper. I mean, he was always a different kid than the rest of us, right? I'll put it to you this way. 6th, 7th grade, kids carry backpacks. Dilla had a briefcase.
We were nerds, the whole house, a bunch of nerds. And James was really smart, like straight A's. We were very family oriented, especially like me and James were, that were not social, that were awkward, that were teased a little bit. I don't think James ever felt okay about his awkwardness or his bashfulness. I think that he hated it. Hated how uncomfortable he was around people, period.
All these family gatherings, like that's the first thing that comes to mind. And you know, us watching movies together, like I'm talking old school VHS, you know what I mean? The whole VHS collection in the basement. I do remember it was like a lot of creativity in our household. Honestly, growing up, like really was a creative household.
My father was, you know, he listened to Jack McDuff with a mixture of James Brown. Then my mother was an opera singer and going to church. Then my sister was listening to whatever was on the radio. All of that paid off, and all of the music lessons and the classes that my mother and father forced me to go to.
My dad had groups who would come to the house and sing, and they would go out and perform. 2 of the people worked with my dad at Ford Motor Company. And then my mom, that was the group. He'd had a record contract and he's cut albums. And so they would have like rehearsals at the house. So music was constant.
It's like my father was just getting into the game. Showed me pictures with Berry Gordy, and it's crazy. Like
the record shop was James' favorite place. He got a chance to go every Friday. His dad got off work and would take him there as a treat.
He used to buy me 45s, and I remember the first album I bought was Kool and the Gang's Open Sesame. I remember buying that album in the store and going home and putting on Open Sesame, and it blew my mind.
At home, he's listening to jazz and gospel. He's singing gospel. You know what I'm saying? But when it came down to us as a crew, it was super duper hip hop. Run DMC, Big Daddy Kane, you know, hip hop.
In Detroit, hip hop was very underground. You know what I'm saying? It was looked at as weird, you know, and you know, we were like strange to people. When I got to like 13, 14 years old, you know, got my turntables for Christmas, which moved to DJing. I used to just take people's records and, you know, pause and record, you know, making little patterns with it, like an old car wash record with funky drumming. And after a while, you know, I figured out, like, damn it, maybe I can, you know, make my own little patterns with these records, you know what I'm saying? So started doing little beats like that.
When we was 13, 14, he took apart his cassette deck to be able to do his beats on his dual cassette, but he wanted to be able to slow down the samples that he was recording from or speed up the samples. So he tore down the cassette and found a screw that actually controlled that. I remember coming in, walking in the door, and saying, what happened to the tape deck? Because the cover was off and I could just see all the guts. And he was just like, oh no, it's straight. I just needed it so I could do this. What? You did what? Yeah, the screw right here. Turn that. Speed up, see? Nah, slow down. Like, yo, like, what's wrong with you, bro? And that was him. Like, once I lock into a situation, I'm going to figure it out.
At that time, I knew I was gifted, but I know so many people that were gifted that never, ever got out the door. And that was my fear. His dad had been in music 25 years. He never made it like that.
I hear my father talk about it, and I always ask him, like, why didn't you sign with him? Or why didn't you I don't even think he can explain it. You know, it's just kind of like one of those situations where it just never happened. So I learned from that. I can't stop, you know, not even for myself, but, you know, I have to do this, you know, and, you know, for my father, you know what I'm saying, get him proud, make him proud, and, you know, and for the rest of my family.
Elephants speak to each other in ways we're just beginning to understand. They'll share their secrets with us if we only listen.
Viewer discretion advised.
Dilla was a rare breed of producer that gave you a human feel in a technical world. Bobby, I don't know. I remember being in LA and I was driving, and it was the first time that I heard I Don't Know.
Good, that's my man T. I ain't the to be play like the niggas that choose to play for money and no time for acting with me. And best believe that you won't do it.
And I thought the collection of James Brown samples and the way that that was put together was probably one of the most ingenious things that I ever heard, not only in hip hop, but in music.
My 10 says it's him too. How many ladies on your job? I mean, the whole crew was like, you know, the S is my crew. We rule, man, you know.
And I remember calling the radio station and said, what is this? And they were like, this is a group out of Detroit, Slum Village, but this is J Dilla, the producer. And I was like, I need that immediately.
When I started Pause to record beats, I was also writing rhymes. I heard about T3 about 10, and they went to another high school. So I'm like, okay, one day we're gonna go up and challenge them. But we ended up taking a trip to a record store and buying some breakbeat albums, and it turned into us seeing the differences in all three of us and what we could be as one.
I go by the name of T3. This is my man by 10 right here. I gotta introduce one more member of the group. You know what I'm saying? That's my man What you say?
I think that was a big change for him, actually meeting By10 and T3. I absolutely loved them together. I did.
Joseph Ampfiddler is an American keyboardist, sound designer, singer, songwriter, and record producer from Detroit, Michigan, USA. He's probably best known as part of George Clinton's Parliament and Funkadelic groups from 1985 to 1996. So what is probably missed out in Wikipedia pages is Ampfiddler taught Dilla how to make beats.
That is missing, isn't it? We have to put it there. Would knock on my door with Slum Village and 4 or 5 other kids and ask if you can work in the basement. And I said, so am I making the beats for you? Am I producing this? And they said, no, James can make the beats.
He came in and played them for me, and he had created them with cassette players. And he just kept dubbing from one cassette to another until he got the track done. And I said, damn, well, if you could do that, then I can show you that you can take those same samples and put them in the MPC and sample them and make a track.
Amp was kind of the first where you got kind of a professional experience. And also for Dilla, that's where Dilla really learned how to use the MPC 60.
Technology has just taken a giant leap forward. Hello, I'm Roger Lynn, and this is the MPC 60 MIDI Production Center.
There's been a bunch of MPCs, like Dilla was a MPC 3000 king. An MPC is a sampling drum machine, so you can put drums in it and you can program drum beats, but you also can sample from live instruments to records to you saying something on a microphone and put it on all of the pads and rearrange them and play a completely different composition. It's really a band in a box.
He say, don't read books when you get equipment. He say, just learn the machine and it'll do what you need it to do. If I would have read the book, I don't think I would be, you know, on the same path that I'm on right now. I think my music might sound totally different.
The first song that we made, it's called Ghost Town to the Break of Day.
What he did with the machine, he shifted timing and made it feel different.
Now I'd like to talk more about the timing correct feature.
All of these drum machines have an autocorrect on them. I can push a button and it'll make it perfect. There is not a human being on this earth that is perfect. What Dilla did that made him special is he took a piece of equipment that you can make perfect and he added a human element to it. When you listen to his beat, you didn't get him pushing the button to make it perfect. You got it exactly how he played it. You got it exactly how he wanted you to receive it.
Like, I get that from listening to old drummers, Bernard Purdy, you know, Idris Muhammad. I mean, like, drummers like that, like, have funk, soul. It was like you can hear when they fucked up, basically, in rhythm, in timing, it was still funky. You know what I'm saying? It's like they still kept the beat. It's hard to explain, but I try to do that through the MP.
So that's me playing the hi-hat in my natural rhythm. This is the best to my ability of me playing this hi-hat on a beat. So if you listen to this, the kick and the snare is off a little bit. It fits, but it's exactly how I played it. But if I wanted to fix it, if I picked that, but to me, that took all of the feel out of it. This is very robotic. Now, what I love about it and what he was very good at is if this wasn't exactly where he wanted it to be, he could erase something and do it again. And I think the people that were trying to mimic what Dilla was doing was looking for the feature. They were almost looking for the Dilla button, and the Dilla button is inside.
I just became obsessed with that sound and what they was doing as a group. And of course, Dilla was, how do you explain that? Like, he was a star, you know what I'm saying? In the sense of like ability and skill set. He was bigger than the group, bigger than life, you know what I'm saying? In terms of what he was doing musically.
I was on Lollapalooza tour in '94. So when we started on the tour, this brother with a crazy big afro came by. It was Amp Fiddler, and he was playing keyboards for Funkadelic, and he was just like, yo, I got this kid. I really want you there. You're going to love him. He loves you. He looks up to you so much. I want you to meet him when we get to Detroit.
A Tribe Called Quest are at the top of their game. Sonically, musically, they really were kind of like the group that a whole generation looked to. Q-Tip, I think you have to say, is one of the most innovative hip-hop producers.
We had like 12 cities to get to Detroit, and each day he would still come and say the same thing to me. Like, yo, man, Detroit's coming up, man. Like,
and then when the tour stopped here, he got Dilla some tickets, and they went up to see the show.
I remember Dilla had on some glasses, and he came on smiling. The first thing I saw was a smile. It was like, oh, man. I was like, oh, what's up, man? And he gave me his tape personally.
That opened up ears to Dilla. That tape was a tape that circulated through the industry. It started their platform, the platform outside of Detroit.
My name is Tupac Shakur, and I'm 17 years old.
It was my responsibility to teach Tupac how to survive his reality.
My mother knew that freedom wouldn't come in her lifetime, just like I know that it won't come in mine.
Afeni was his hero, and it's really hard to see your hero fall.
He was suffering, and Faney wanted the story told, blemishes and all.
Critics are falling in love with one of the best rom-coms of all time.
That's iconic.
Rye Lane is distinctly stylish. A blast of pure joy.
You all right back there?
Loving it.
Rye Lane, rated R.
Viewer discretion advised.
We in the studio recording, and he step out of the studio, and he come back in like, man, you won't believe who that was. I'm like, who? He's like, man, that was Q-Tip. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what?
I called his house. I was like, yo, man, people gotta hear your shit somehow. We gotta figure something out. We gotta work, man.
We looked at that shit like it was a sign, like, you know, like this shit is about to go down.
You know, he'd be excited, but what his excitement was simply this. And that's it. Would not utter a word, just like.
Tip got me out to New York, and he wanted to manage me, but he didn't know what even start. He just was like, yo, I got to get you out here. I'm going to the studio. You know, Farside is down the hall. Common is in another room, the Roots. You know, all of these people I'm listening to.
It just didn't seem real because he's still very young. What was he, 20 maybe? 20 years old?
Like, you know, he used to ask me opinions on things. You know, for me to say that, you know, it's kind of weird because, like I said, I'm a Tribe Called Quest fan. You know, every album, to even get a call back from that man, you know, and to be taken serious, I was there. See, I tell people, I felt like I was a part of a Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah, he was in our world, but it was more like we were in his world because it was just like, how's he coming to do this so quick? Like, we're sitting here for hours just, you know, chopping, doing all this, and Dilla would just come in and boop, 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 boom, and go back upstairs, and you're like, we've been sitting here for weeks and months trying to achieve that, what he just did in minutes.
First time I heard a Dilla beat was when Trey and the Farside were in New York recording with New York hip-hop producers.
This is the Farside.
Farside's first record is successful. They're getting MTV play. The sophomore album is always a big album for any group. And we didn't really have a producer. So they get in the studio, and Q-Tip happened to be working with this young kid named JD. I remember Trey from the Farside calling me and saying, Mike, listen to this beat. And it was the running beat. I said, well, come back to LA now. I think we have our producer.
The Farside Running, that song, that was one of the first songs that a major label gave me an opportunity to go out and do what I want to do.
Dilla took that approach of grabbing samples and turned it into a musical form. He added a little bit more sophistication to the music side of these records. He added a really dope landscape to what the rappers were rapping off of. This is Stan Getz. So he sampled this part. So if you hear lute, and that's how he used it. Him adding that musical element is what made it seep over into all genres of music. And, you know, that his impact wasn't just in hip hop. His impact was musically all the way across the board. This is one of my favorites. This is the Singers Unlimited, Claire.
You get to me in a way I can't describe. The words mean so little when you look up and smile. I don't care what people say to me, you're more than a child. Oh, Claire, it's the 788.
And then it's...
Don't let the drum fluctuate.
This wasn't even a music sample. These are human voices that he tuned in a way to create the music bed for players. And the song is called Claire. Everybody in the world thinks they're saying players. Genius. He used everything at his disposal. That was the joy of it, of the discovery. And he did it better than all of us.
I ran into Dilla at Q-Tip's house, and he was like, Dilla's downstairs. And I went downstairs, he was just downstairs behind the turntable just with records, just playing records and messing around. And then we put together the Uma. Uma was a collection of producers. Uma came to be through Kamal, Q-Tip.
The Uma was supposed to be D'Angelo, myself, Ali, Raphael, Sadiq, and Dilla.
It was a collective. It'll just say produced by the Uma, which could have been produced by Q-Tip or Ali Shaheed or Dilla.
It was intentionally a little bit opaque what exactly the Uma credit meant.
I just wanted to be a part of the movement of what they were doing. And like I said, it was just all exciting. I was just going with the flow, rolling with the punches and, you know, taking it as it came.
After a few 12 inches had come out, there's this piece in magazine by Jeff Mao, known as Chairman Mao. That is kind of the first window that hip-hop fans, I think, have into who JD is.
Then all of a sudden, he's caught up in a wave of, you know, he's off to the races. Fucking genius. What a fucking...
I first got exposed to Dilla's music. I remember exactly. I was at my friend's house, and he played this Busta Rhymes album, and the song came on, Still Shining it's called, Still Shining. I was like, wait, what is this?
He used to send me a beat CD and be like, yo, these are the beats that nobody can rhyme to. And it'll be the most off-the-wall, left field, groundbreaking sounding beats, and that was what would challenge me to write. That song took me about a week and a half to write. I ain't never take that long to write a song in my life.
Just a moment, let me take a breather. Got two niggas sweating cold like you caught the fever.
Sound like no other hip hop beat I've ever heard, because the chord change and how it was moving, and it never really repeated. Almost like a live drummer's playing, listening to a rapper. That's what it felt like. And then years later, I got a chance to ask him. I was like, I'm still shining. Did Dilla put the drums out after you laid your verse? He was like, no, son. the drums is already there.
When I wrote the rhyme, I had to write the rhyme to the way the drum pattern was going. If the part was only 2 or 3 seconds long, I would have to keep rewinding that part until I figured out how to match the wordplay pattern to go exactly with the production pattern.
That's even more crazy. The fact that he did those drums like that without a rapper. Like, that's just, it just doesn't get done. You know what I mean? But Dilla got that done.
Week 8 of the XFL kicks off Saturday and continues Sunday.
Tell me this isn't happening.
Only one episode left until the series finale.
And in the story, the guy that looks like you wins. Not this time.
FX's Snowfall, Wednesday at 10 on FX. Stream on Hulu.
Viewer discretion advised.
In Best Rap Album, the Grammy goes to the artist and to the album producers. The nominations are
Beats, Rhymes, and Life. A Tribe Called Quest. Producer, The Uma.
When I look at it, it's like, damn, you know, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tracks on a Tribe album, you know what I'm saying? It was unbelievable.
After that, Dilla was working. He was busy. His life advanced as the money advanced.
Yep. Dilla was kind of unmanaged at the time. And I moonlit for a lawyer named Micheline Levine for some years. Micheline represented Funkmaster Flex, Tribe Called Quest. And so I think Dilla came to her by way of Q-Tip and Ali. Micheline was hired to handle Dilla's transactions. That was Micheline's formal role. Artie Yerk was a lifetime music business accountant. He worked with a number of Micheline's clients. He was the one who was having to think about, you know, saving, structure, taxes, all of that stuff. You know, what were the rates? How do you keep them consistent? What's his back-end participation? You know, all the kind of technical details of negotiating those deals became more and more important as he was more and more in demand. There was plenty of money flowing in.
I first started covering music in Detroit. I remember one of the rappers in D12, Denon Porter, telling me this, that everything changed when JD pulled up in a green Jaguar, and they were like, oh, wait, you can make money from this.
In the beginning, the Uma, it was an incredible thing. It was an accomplishment. A good little while we rode around with a license plate that had the Uma on the back. For most of those records that he put out, a lot of them said the Uma.
The Uma thing kind of, you know, covered it up. You know, in the first couple of years, it was exciting. It was still cool. And, you know, the Uma thing, I felt like this was another Tribe Called Quest on the production, you know what I'm saying? Instead of Jay. So it's like, you know,
certain records I didn't know that he did, because he's pretty quiet about what he was doing. He really did the work.
The Uma, at some point, I think the shadow was a little large for him.
We got a visitor here, a guest. Stop by. We got the Uma. We got the Uma in the studio with us.
What up? What up? This is the Uma.
Yo, for real though, we got JD in the studio with us.
Everybody in the scene listened to our fucking radio show, yo. It was fucking amazing, yo. We had all the heat. We talked about the Uma shit and all that. So he would be upset about that shit from time to time. Fuck that, my name ain't on the records.
It got to the point of everybody thought Tip did the beats that he rhymed on, and everybody thought the remixes in. I did interviews and they asked me questions like, yeah, so Tip did this and that. I'm like, no, I did that. You know what I'm saying? Like, no. So it was like, yeah, after a while, it got to be frustrating, you know what I'm saying? And led to tension.
And you neglecting your solo project because you constantly making the beats, but you putting the Uma stuff up first.
It kind of affected me because I'm like, damn, you know, like maybe I shouldn't have, maybe I shouldn't have got him involved with the Tribe album, but, you know, that was the only way that I knew how to get heard, you know what I'm saying, at that time.
The deadly venom, let me start from...
His music was to become a brand, become a staple. He felt as though people need to know this is me. I want that credit. If I want you to come to my house to buy my goods, you need to know exactly where my house is. And at some point, I think that became his fight.
final season premieres May 24th on FX. Stream on Hulu.
The question is, who do you intend to be?
I want so much for you, but you're not going to get any of it if you don't want it for yourself.
Viewer discretion advised.
After a while, I said, well, how does it feel? Like, you work with all these people that you love, and, you know, how do you feel? He's like, it seems like work now.
The whole fame thing was definitely not an attraction to James. He's not trying to have people in his face. Like, people have invited him to video shoots and all kind of stuff. He's like, no, it's all good. I'd rather stay at home.
He's a private guy. I like being in my warm, relaxing bubble and making beats and making people happy and making money that way. Fame was just a function of achieving the goal. It was not the goal.
He was too much of an introvert. He didn't like taking pictures, not even for the family.
Probably around 97, 98 is when he really was like, you know what, Frank? I ain't leaving no more. They're gonna have to come here and work. And before you know it, everybody was there.
One by one, they come to Detroit to kind of see what he's doing. So that includes Common. It also includes Black Thought from the Roots. Busta Rhymes and other people start making the trip out there.
So many people.
It would be people lined up all along that fence and around the front, waiting for Dilla. Artists call it the basement.
I'm still in the basement. You know, I keep it in the basement.
I really want to know how it looks in your basement.
That's crazy. Posters everywhere and old records on the wall, you know, things like that, just to give it the soul feel. So when I go in the basement, that's all I see. I just see these records all over the wall. So when I go make my music, I don't know, just something comes out.
So Dilla was in Detroit, we were in New York. Everybody relied heavily on Micheline for her expertise and her guidance. Micheline relied heavily on Maureen for managing what was happening in Detroit.
I was always mob manager, always, Detroit management. That was what he called me.
Because of the physical distance between us, it was never entirely clear what was happening. It turns out that Dilla or Maureen had done a side deal with somebody in Detroit. We cleaned it up. But, you know, at the height of it, Dilla was probably getting, I don't know, maybe $60,000, $75,000 a track, something like that. But if you called him on the first of the month, you might get a track for $5 or $10 grand. So Micheline, Artie, and I worked very closely together to kind of pull the pieces together. And we did our best to corral it, take care of it, but you know, it wasn't something we were completely in control of.
Almost parallel to the same pattern of interest from Q-Tip, like the Ummah. You have a similar kind of pattern with the Soulquarians. Questlove, the drummer for the Roots, and D'Angelo get really excited about what JD's doing with the rhythms, the way he's using samples.
It was so weird how this happened. Amir knew that he was, you know, of course, he was Aquarius, and then he knew James Porter's Aquarius, and D'Angelo. So he thought that was bizarre already.
Logical,
right, he thought that was bizarre. Then when we just happened to talk one day in the session, like, found out I was Aquarius. So he's like, whoa, that was it.
Neo Soul is really a tag, I think, that was put onto the output of the Soulquarians.
If you ask me what Neo Soul is, it's Dilla-influenced R&B. You know what I mean? It's kind of like smoothed out, more hip-hop influenced R&B, but the hip-hop they're influenced by is really from the J Dilla school.
Dilla would create a lot in his basement. It was his house where he grew up. I really enjoyed going to his house to work because we had fun. Dilla would be going through records. And it was part of it, I just enjoyed the journey of like, okay, what are we gonna get now? What is he gonna create? What is he gonna come up with? And it was like a challenge / fun and inspiration. So I love that process.
This sound was very new.
All of the beats so fast.
For the what?
Just in the bass and
Yeah.
And Like Water for Chocolate was the best version of that sound. And it was one of the first versions of that sound to really hit the world. Common and Dilla were made for each other. That was a match made in heaven.
I love Common's Delight. There are times when you need someone, I will be by your side. Yeah, that one.
There are times when you need someone.
Yeah.
I will be by your side.
So.
There is a light that shines special for you and me.
Yeah.
You're really the link between the high-tech stuff, swampy technology stuff, and the neo-soul movement. You're the link.
Damn. It's a big compliment to hear. I don't feel like I originated that, I guess you could say. I think that my little, weird influences may have brought something to that, you know what I'm saying, to that soul movement.
He was always a shy guy. As a young kid, he was shy. He stuttered. He chose his words wisely as a young man. He was very tempered in what he did. He was never the guy who needed to stand out and let everybody, ooh, look at me.
I would get upset. I said, you work so hard, you're helping all these people and you're helping them get this stuff together. Why haven't you been offered this? And he just looked at me, he said, lady, what she called me when I get a little strong, high strong, it's a time for everything. It's a time for everything.
I decided to reimagine, repurpose, and renovate these vehicles. And I wanted to do it for communities in need. I hope this demonstrates how to make a giant difference in other people's lives.
I've spent a great deal of my own life in prison. I never wanted it to happen to my son.
Viewer discretion advised.
I know for the MCA deal, that was his chance to show his range, really. That was supposed to be his, this the big J Dilla solo album.
You so precious like a burst of joy. I heard your boy Jacob got the best shit. You so hot, you make me hot, boy, and he got you round the whole.
Like, what I want to do is bring my thing in, as did Dre, as did RZA, as Timbaland. You know what I'm saying? I would like to bring my own sound.
With me, the feeling is priceless.
Dilla had signed a deal with MCA that was an artist deal, a 12-song producer deal, and a label deal.
Dilla got a big check. Basically what he does with that big lump sum of money that comes is build a new studio for himself.
Dilla Studios, nigga. Be ready to lay some hot shit or you will not get in.
Dilla Studios, Frank and Dank, Jay Dilla. Y'all know how we rotate. This the essence.
Dilla's house right here now. This is not a game, this is the real deal.
Right off the bat, he starts working with Frank and Dank, who are kind of his long-term collaborators in Detroit.
Yeah. Frank and Dank, y'all.
That's all his crew, He's spinning off records and making records with his homies.
It was T3 and Baten from Slum Village and Dilla who came up with the idea that Frank and Dank should actually be a rap group. Obviously, I'm the Frank half of Frank and Dank. Dank is my brother.
He told Dank, tell your mom you got to quit your job because, you're going to do this and I got you. And he held his word. He took care of them.
Exclusives, so make sure y'all get online.
They shared everything, it was like, to be successful, his boys was gonna be successful with him.
Dilla, you know about the rules, nigga, that we put on the website? The rules of Dilla Studios, nigga? Oh, that's my nigga say, don't come late. Ooh, don't fall in love with no beats, because he will cut that motherfucker off with no ass. He will click that motherfucker like click.
We recorded to his sound that he was known for, but he changed the sound mid-album, really stripped all the beats that we had recorded to and made new beats under our vocals. It was a choice of his. It was a style change.
I think that's around the time he kind of was dealing with the more electro sounding stuff.
Yeah, Frank Dang. Jake Dilla.
People who knew who Dilla was and his catalog had seen him change his style 5 or 6 times. People started gravitating to what he was doing, and he was like, okay, I'm gonna make a left turn.
One of a kind album. It's the only album ever made with no samples that Dilla did. He played everything. He had guitars, no samples. There isn't another Dilla produced project like that. His logic for going left at the time, I don't know.
Just trying to always bring something new. And I think that's been a kind of a problem with me because I'm always trying to do something like I've never done before. That's where my head is at every day. It's like I try to do what I didn't do yesterday.
They hated him. I recall at the time that just nobody knew what to do with it. It wasn't a very commercial record.
At the time, it was the worst possible shit that we could go through. It caused risks.
The MCA thing broke that core.
After that, I didn't see him as often.
The labels, they want more commercial, you know what I'm saying, commercial things. But when it's a situation like that where it's just politic or just too many people involved or whatever, it always waters down the music. It waters down, how I feel about, my energy working on the project. It's like a lot of factors that take away from the true authentic shit. It definitely takes away from the soul of it.
MCA was having their own challenges at the time. There was no real sponsor anymore left at the label to support it. It was kind of the end of the road.
What is your intention?
How about that?
It's part of our story.
This is the way.
Viewer discretion advised.
I just got out of the MCA deal just literally a month ago. Just signed a release. Been asking for a release for over a year.
After that point, Dilla got the most artistic freedom he probably had in his whole career. I mean, he was free. He was an independent artist. He could do what he want.
I make CDs. I put I call them 2 batches per CD, 24 beats per CD. And it's like last year I did 5 volumes.
That's his greatest work, man. Like his greatest shit is on the beat tapes.
I still have some of the CDs that he wrote his name on and he just handed it to me. He just did, and you just so happen to be there, and he's just like, here, here's some beats I did. The reason why we are still finding stuff is he was giving it away. He was putting it out there by any means necessary.
I have to stop doing that because I did that last year. Yeah, and that's how the bootlegs and
why I'm not giving you a tape right.
That shit is crazy.
Even till today, you can discover music and beat tapes that he did that no one still has ever used. If this is someone who arguably could make 5 to 10 beats a day, if you just add that up in a year, have we heard 1 year of Dilla beats? What if we only heard a year? What about the other 12, 15 years?
Jay Dilla setting it off.
So around 2002, maybe early 2003, he had went on a trip. Him and Dank went to Europe for a DJ tour.
No niin, taas ollaan Helsingin yöelämässä. Kyydissä, ei yhtään enempää eikä vähempää. J Dilla.
I love you guys.
We got J Dilla in the house at last. It's an honor.
Yes, man. Yo, I'm so excited right now. I'm having a ball out here, period. From the basement of Detroit to be out here and to have people accept this music and these crazy ideas that I have is unbelievable to me. You know, it's like, it's unreal. It's really unreal.
This is a classic. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, man. Beautiful.
When he got back, he wasn't feeling well. He thought he had gotten sick from food he had eaten in Europe on the tour.
He spit up a couple of times, and he said, I think I better go to the hospital. I'm really not feeling well. He must have been really weak. Took him in right away to examine him, but then after they did his platelet count, the lab work came back. And then that's when they said, we're gonna have to call the doctor, come to the back now. They had a specialist on the way already. They had already called, we didn't even know it. He ended up being in a hospital stay a couple of months. His kidneys were failing during that time. We were told not to tell people. But Frank and Dank, they knew, and they were there every day, just like I was. Me, Mr. Yancey, Frank and Dank.
At the time, I thought it was just him not taking care of himself, not eating properly. I know how he gets when he making music, when he working. You know, he can bust his head open. As long as he can still see the buttons, he gonna keep working.
The TTP was what they officially said it was. That's a type of blood disorder.
It's something that kind of looks like leukemia, and it was killing him. Like, his blood was literally killing him. And he spent a lot of time in and out of hospitals, and his body was really just betraying him.
Back and forth, losing weight, gaining weight, in and out of the hospital, never knowing exactly how long.
At 2 months, and we go home. Maybe a week later, we'd be on our way to the hospital. Things just kept not getting better. Dialysis almost every day. He was in so much pain, he begged me to take him off of the machine. Please take me, told him to take it off. I can't. He couldn't take the pain. It was so hard, but his body was getting so frail. And I would be trying to be strong and say, it's almost over, just wait, almost done another hour. He'd be saying, Mom, please take me off.
I think a part of his personality that never wanted anybody to know how much it hurt. And he never really did express that.
Common called me one night after he had got out of the hospital, and he said, Ma, you think if maybe he had a change of scenery, he might feel a little better?
When he moved to Cali, it was very at peace for him. You know, when he lived with Common in California.
Yo, tell me if you remember this when we was in the.
He was taking protein and stuff just to kind of put the weight back because he had been in the hospital for so long. But like, he was good. Like, you know what I mean? He was back.
That shit was hilarious.
Hey, that was probably the most peaceful he'd ever been in his life.
Donuts was a return to the old school kind of format of chopping and sampling, kind of grimy, kind of dirty.
It's meant to be a 70s, 80s kind of old school mixtape. Because back in the day, when him, Frank and Autumn were younger, my brother was making mixtapes, like soul mixtapes on cassette and stuff. So that's all Donuts is. It's just like a soul mixtape.
He did Donuts while we were at the house, and a lot of it, some of it obviously he did while he was in the hospital.
When I went to see him at the hospital, and I remember certain, like some of his toys, like being in the room, you know what I mean? Some of his machines.
His disease seemed to give him arthritic symptoms, hands in pain. Those were his tools that he worked with all those years. So yes, they were suffering because they were not doing what they were used to doing. But he was not going to stop.
FX's Mayans. The final season premieres May 24th on FX. Stream on Hulu.
Viewer discretion advised.
He would never share how ill he was because he didn't want to stress anybody. But James and I knew that his time was numbered, was limited. He had been suffering with the illness for 2 years before he got to California. The doctors did a tremendous job in bringing in doctors from, Boston and across the states to consult and to find out how to either conquer this illness or stabilize it. And they were challenged. Actually, it was lupus. They never looked for that.
Had no clue he was in a wheelchair. Had no clue he had lost as much weight as he had lost. Had no idea it was as serious as it was until he rolled off the plane in London to start that tour. And then we was filming, we had the camera. The only conversation was, hey, I got this camera, man. You want me to film you? If you don't want me to film you, I won't film you. And he said, nah, Frank, go ahead, yeah. Do your thing, bro, it's all good. Okay. And still not understanding the gravity of it.
Yo, it's a blessing to be out here right now, bringing you this celebration.
It's what it is, y'all.
From the D, I'm like, fuck it. I'm gonna let my peoples. So, make some noise if you're feeling me out there.
I was able to be there all the time, which made it better for him. During that time, he was in and out of consciousness, and I'm sitting there, and he's talking to his maker, and hear the same prayer over, but I know he's not conscious, and that scared me. He is specifically saying, I just want to finish my work. Just let me finish my work. They did the record release party around the corner on La Brea and Beverly. And he said, no, Ma, I'm a little tired today. I'm just not gonna go. Just you go. You go for both of us.
Donuts was J Dilla. There wasn't any Uma. There wasn't any Soul Aquarius. There wasn't any of that. It was him. The album came out on the 7th, which was his birthday. And he passed away on the 10th.
At the doctor's appointment that morning, got James up, had bathed him and dressed him. I said, James, you got about 20 minutes before time for us to leave to go to the doctor's appointment. I said, you want to lay down, 20-minute nap, or, you want to leave her? He said, I'll lay down. I'll take that nap. I said, okay. About 15 minutes later, I said, okay, James, it's time to go. And I said it twice, and he was like, seemed like he was so Seemed like he was tired or something. I said, James. And he was like, barely moved. So we get in the car, and I'm wondering why he's like leaning, and I put my arms around him, and I'm talking to him. And he gave me this breath and falls in my arm. And that was it. And I was like, I don't know what I was like. I don't remember breathing. Couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. But I felt blessed still because I was there with him. I brought him into the world, and then he was in my arms when he left. And
took the phone, hello, and it was Maureen, his mother. And she just said, Frankie, he passed away, he's gone. And it was sad, man. It was, unexpected and definitely not what I had thought or envisioned or planned on or any of that.
Oh, sorry. Whoa.
I have a revolutionary story that I must tell.
My mother was a Black Panther, and she was really involved in the movement. My mother is totally brilliant.
She knew freedom wouldn't come in her lifetime, just like I know that it won't come in mine.
Faney wanted the story told, blemishes and all. Would y'all appreciate it?
FX's Dear Mama premieres April 21st on FX. Stream on Hulu.
Coming home, here's Chicago.
Family style? Two tops, boots?
What do you call it?
Viewer discretion advised.
We could have done something really special for Dilla and in his memory with all the material that was there. Something that really represented his legacy. If it hadn't become about all this nasty infighting.
Initially, when I saw the will, it struck me as being very simple, very spare, bare bones. The documents that were filed with the court, you can see at the top the Google search terms that were used to find this template. There was simply the naming of the 3 executors and the naming of the 4 heirs. His mother, Maureen, his brother, John, and his 2 daughters, Jemiah and Ty Monet. Artie Erk is the primary executor of the estate. So he was chosen to be the person to oversee the distribution of assets, the handling of paying debts, and figuring out how to run Dilla's business.
The beauty and the problem of J Dilla is that he loved making music. He was very good at making music, but he probably wasn't the best businessman.
It's common enough for there to be outstanding debts when an artist dies, so much so that the law actually says you have to pay off those debts before the heirs can get anything that they've been left in the will. At the time of Dilla's death, Artie Erk valued the entire estate at $400,000. There were some outstanding debts. There was a $500,000 tax bill owed to the IRS, and there was an outstanding loan for almost $320,000.
You can imagine going back to the chaos that was ensuing around things happening on the side through various managers and directly with Maureen and directly with Dilla, that taxes weren't always paid on all of those transactions.
So before the heirs can get paid, the estate needs to pay off its tax bill. And so in order to do that, it needs to take an inventory of everything that it has. And that means wrangling all the songs that are out there so that they can be monetized.
There were all kinds of illicit uses of Dilla's material everywhere.
I mean, there are musicians who are probably making music that don't know they're making music to a Dilla beat. You know, what do you do with that? What's the legality when it comes to that even? Especially when some musicians will say, well, he gave this to me. This was a gift that he gave to me, just told me to do something with it.
So in court documents, Artie says there's a staggering number of copyright infringements. There's tons of legal expense associated with it, and it dilutes the brand. Artie also says in a court document, including copyright infringement by a beneficiary, Maureen Yancey.
They dare to tell me that I don't have the right to do certain things, but they can do it, do what they want. But I shouldn't be doing it unless I get permission from them. But that's, you know, I didn't get permission to have them, so he can come this way.
Maureen would, you know, here and there sell things on the side, you know, to make an album, you know, sell beats to an artist. Artie and Micheline were furious.
I'm a Detroiter, a proud Detroiter. So yes, I will stay in there and I will fight. I'm not gonna let anybody put my son down, what I do for him down, or anybody else, because I'm here to lift up his music, his legacy.
My mom's intention was always to work with the estate, but it was more like, if y'all gonna be doing all this stuff, but you're not taking care of his family, then it's like, what's the point?
We took out this full-page ad in Billboard that basically said, there's a lot of unauthorized material running around. If you are not talking to Artie Erk or Micheline Levine, you are not talking to Dilla's legacy, and you are stealing money from his children.
Around 2008, the family gets frustrated with the way Artie and Micheline are handling the estate. They feel that the executors are spending too much time on suing people when there are other ways that the estate could be generating income. The family files a petition with the court asking to have Artie and Micheline removed. In 2009, Artie and Micheline ultimately stepped down.
I think it's unfair to accuse Micheline or Artie or me or anyone else of being insensitive, because they were really just trying to do what they were asked to do. Had Dilla wanted Maureen to be the keeper of the legacy, he had the opportunity to do so. I guess that, at the end of the day, is really the source of the conflict. And that must be terrible to live with.
The thing that's challenging about a will in terms of how it relates to an artist's legacy is that the legal language in it is rigid and it's simple. It's kind of not the right tool to use to address how to handle an artist's legacy going forward. It's not sophisticated or nuanced enough.
In your opinion, who should get to decide the person's legacy?
The decedent. I mean, for whatever tiny little legacy I have, I want to decide.
It is not the courts or attorneys' decisions to decide what his heirs do with what he left.
According to 2021 court documents, Dilla's estate was valued at $1.2 million. And given he was such a prolific artist in his lifetime with such a vast body of work, one could wonder, you know, how much more this estate could have been worth had all of his affairs been in order and it had been managed differently.
There's a commerce part of it that this is the great Jay Dilla and all of his work needs to be put out and we should receive some kind of compensation for it. But that's not how Jay Dilla went about his art.
He was one of the great creatives of all time. He was sent here to do the work, and he did the work. And I ain't heard anybody better than JD.
Unbelievable, baby girl. Oh, okay, Joy.
His work that seems so big now, it was always that quality of work.
Donuts was a legacy for him.
Donuts is kind of the ultimate example of that tantalizing potential unfulfilled quality.
The Donuts album, I look at that as like the exclamation point. Him once again doing something that was going to change the course of the way a lot of artists looked at music.
Donuts holds that folklore. That was what dropped when he left us. You know, I don't listen to Donuts. It's eerie for me. The song titles and the way he set it up. It's like a letter.
Sometimes I could just listen through it and no tears. Sometimes I listen through it, some tears come out. It's literally saying, preparing us. Like if you listen to the album, it's like peace. You know what I mean? With love.
These records touch people.
Hip hop and life, that's what Jay Dilla means to me. I bleed Dilla.
Far-reaching, from him getting streets named after him in France to, you know, murals all over the world. He's probably a bigger artist than he's ever been.
His love for so many styles of music and his ability to make them all his own. Put him in his MPC, which is his musical playground, and influence the world from there.
I just hope that people know that when they do listen to his music, that he put everything in it. Everything.
Yeah, his life had controversy. Yeah, he had things in his life that got sticky. But I don't know that he would want it any other way. To let the music stand tall, and I think, man, what we talking about right now?
On behalf of the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture, and from the bottom of my heart, we want to thank you for sharing your son's legacy with us and for trusting us to share it with the world.
I know I won't be around to do this forever, but you know, while I am here, you know, I just want to make my mark.
We have to get this money. We have to get it now. Tell me this isn't happening. You think this is how it ends?
Only one episode left until the series finale.
In any story, the guy that looks like you wins. Not this time.
FX's Snowfall, Wednesday at 10 on FX. Stream on Hulu.